Please welcome Leah McGowan-Hare and Bozoma Saint John.
Yes. Hello, hello, hello. Connections, how you doing? Well, how am I doing, you ask, since you ask. I am so blessed in this moment. Do you see who I'm sitting up here with? I mean, I gotta stand up to read her introduction because let's just say, let's give you your flowers now, madam.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, let's hear you. Let me tell you who is sitting on the stage for those that have been living under a rock and don't know. Bozoma is a Hall of Fame marketing executive, entrepreneur, author, and one of the most recognized and respected brand leaders in the world. She's held some of the biggest roles in business: global CMO of Netflix, CMO of Endeavor, Chief Brand Officer at Uber, and senior positions at Apple Music and PepsiCo, bringing bold, culture-shaping campaigns to life at every stop. Now, if that's not enough, let me go to my next card. Let me tell you. She's not just a leader in business. She is a force of inclusion, a global ambassador for change, and a fierce advocate for showing up unauthentically for change. And she has earned her honors from Forbes, Billboard, Fast Company, and the American Advertisement Federation. And get this, and yes, even has her own Harvard Business School case study. Now, how many of y'all can say that? I didn't think so. Bose, thank you for gracing us with your presence.
Thank you,
so grateful.
Thank you for having me. Hi, everybody. I'm really glad to be here. Well, by the way, there were some people on Instagram who wrote me that said that they were going to be here, so I'm looking for them in the audience.
Hey, who was that? Who was that?
Exactly. I was like, there were a few who wrote me and said.
There they are. Well, let's just get straight into it. You've built an extraordinary career from shaping iconic brands across a diverse catalog from tech to consumer goods and entertainment. What has been your consistent philosophy that helps in building these compelling brands?
Well, here's the thing. I always start with myself. Not that I'm self-centered, but honestly, like, where else should you start, you know?
Okay.
Because I'm always curious about the fact that we think that we are not important enough to center ourselves, not only in our own lives, but in our own careers and in the jobs that we do.
Yes.
Because why else are you in the place if not because of who you are? There are so many times, well, thank you, girl. There are so many times when we try to make ourselves smaller to assimilate into spaces, but actually it does such a disservice, not just to yourself, but to the people you work with, for the company or brand that you work in, because then you're not really actually contributing anything of yourself, and that's the whole point. You know, otherwise they could just go get somebody else.
Exactly.
And so my through line for every position I've been in, or every room I've been in, every campaign I have touched, has been that I've inserted myself, my own experiences, and therefore my ideas, my brilliance, my excitement, my grief, my love, my joy, my lessons into every single one, and that's how I've been able to make connections with other humans.
I love that. So it's like connecting yourself to that work.
Yes.
And then it makes it a stronger drive and more authentic in that space.
Yeah, well, because I don't think we give it ourselves enough importance.
Yes.
You know, in that if you don't think you're important, then you would not think your story is worthy of being integrated into the work that you do.
I love that.
But I happen to think I'm very important.
Okay.
And so I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I think the work deserves my perspective.
Right, I love that.
And I wish that everyone, at every level, by the way, not just when you get to senior positions, but starting out at the beginning of your career. And if you didn't do it then do it in the middle.
That's right.
You know, where you put yourself in the work so that when you leave the work, it is known that you were there.
That's right. You were leaving your impact there. Yeah. You're leaving your force on that. It's interesting you say that because it makes me think of a conversation I had with a leader, and they were like, I'm just not passionate about this work that I have to do, Leah. And I go, a couple things. I was like, well, are you passionate about being employed? How about that? Let's start there. But then I said, the truth is, the passion doesn't always come from the work. It can come from the person.
Yes, exactly.
Doesn't matter what the work is you're doing. You can bring the passion and infuse it. So I love how you said that, because that is a through line to every piece.
Oh, for sure.
Now, you've helped shape some of the world's most iconic brands. What does it take for a brand not just to succeed in the market, but but leave a cultural legacy?
Well, I look at brands very much like people. You know, so as a marketer, a lot of times what you're trying to do is storytell, to other humans and try to connect the brand to those people.
Yes.
And the best way to do that is to pretend the brand is a human.
I love that.
So inject it with personality and behaviors and, the history and the way it's been. I find it interesting that we don't often think of brands like that, but we don't think of it consciously, but subconsciously we do.
Right.
And so many times you'll find people have really strong passions about any one brand.
Yes, yes.
How many have fought over iPhone and Android?
Yes.
Anybody have?
They're not gonna raise their hand.
Who has
in
an
here?
Android in here?
Okay.
Okay, you see the people, if you're sitting next to that person, know that they will beat you down if you say anything about their Android, okay? So just beware, be careful. Or it's like, I worked at Pepsi for a long time. The battle between Pepsi and Coke is long storied. And, the taste tests and all other things, people would swear to you that they know the difference. And having worked inside,
Really?
I hate to lie to you, but I think a lot of it is marketing. It's how you are building a personality and therefore allowing people to connect to that brand through human traits. And so therefore you're gonna assign that, okay, if you're a Pepsi drinker, for a long time the tagline was the voice of a new generation or the taste of a new generation.
Yes.
So it felt young and free and spontaneous. Whereas Coke is known for its storied history, its stability, the thing that is going to be there through the ages. Yes, through the test of time and comfort and family.
Yes.
And so depending on how you identify yourself or who you want to be identified with is how you're then going to choose the brand and be loyal to it.
But then let me ask you this, because if we think of it as a person, people tend to grow and evolve.
Yes.
Brands grow and evolve, but it doesn't always get well taken by some of the people.
Well, yeah.
How do you suggest to a company to navigate the changing of their brand or the expansion or the growth?
Yeah, well, again, it's like a human being. It's like the brands who make a mistake in their evolution do it because they take a sharp left. I always think of it like, if we met at a cocktail party and, you're lovely. Where are you from originally?
I'm from Connecticut originally.
You're from Connecticut, okay? So Connecticut, you sound like you're from Connecticut, wonderful. Then I see you someplace else at another party 6 months later, and now you have a British accent. And
but what do you mean? What do you mean?
Exactly. You see what I'm saying? Now, do we trust her? No. You know what I mean? And so then I'm looking at you like, who are you? And which one was real? Was the one I met before real or this one real? And actually it doesn't matter because I don't even like you anymore. And guess what? I'm gonna talk about you. I'm gonna go to the next one to be like, beware of her because she's a fake. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's what happens to brands. And so when the evolution is too fast and changes too quickly, then you find a problem. Now, you're from Connecticut. Over time, let's say you're the brand, you move to New York City, Brooklyn, in particular.
Which I did, thank you.
Okay, all right. And you pick up some words that are very specific to Brooklyn and you start infusing them into the language.
Son, word.
Now, I didn't ask for all that. We have a prime example. Thank you for playing the game. But that's what I mean, is that you start to infuse some of those words. And so if I meet you 6 months later, and I'm just like, girl, what's that? You're like, I moved to Brooklyn 6 months ago. I'm like, oh, right.
Yes.
That's how evolution can work for a brand, is that you start to essentially bring in new ideas and evolve it like you would a human personality.
Got it. So bringing people along in the space.
Right.
And the challenge in this current day and age with AI moving so rapidly fast and companies needing to keep their foot on the gas to stay competitive, how do we build that in to this evolution as well?
Oh gosh, well that becomes even scarier.
Yes.
So I was at Apple when we created Apple Music. So essentially I actually started out at Beats Music, which was one of the first places to do streaming music, and then we were acquired by Apple. And so then I began working on Apple Music, or to create Apple Music and take over iTunes, which was going to be sort of the engine that drove Apple Music. well, very quickly we found that, Apple Music was being adopted so quickly that the transition time was shorter than we had initially planned. Now, the challenge for us at the time was about personalization, so being able to understand people's behavior and then reflect it back at them in music. So the line was very, very thin on when people thought you were being creepy. So it's like, look, if you are a country music lover, and we serve you country artist after country artist after country artist, and then you slip in something that is sort of a tangent to that artist or that genre of music, maybe people would go with it because you know that they've picked a song from that genre before. And so you're just trying to infuse more options that they would like. And maybe then there's an outlier where they listen to some, 80s hip hop and you're like, oh, okay, let me go ahead and put some of that in there. Now the thin line is that people are like, whoa, who's watching me? How do they know what I'm doing?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And then you very quickly came to the point of adoption where then people are annoyed if you weren't playing the music that they think that you should know that they like. Right?
So it goes from creepy to like, you should be doing better.
That's right. Yes, and then you complain. Then people are just like, this thing, it doesn't even know what I like, how dare it? And you're like, oh my God.
So, but stop stalking me.
Yeah, exactly, It went from like, how you know everything about me? I hate people looking at me, to like, why don't you know me better? Sounds like a real relationship.
I was about to say, it sounds like couples therapy.
Sounds like the conversation I had last night. But in any case, the idea about AI in this current time is similar, in which that I think very quickly we all become more adaptable to the ways in which AI is infused, not just in our work life or like these bigger concepts and ideas, but in our daily life. And so there is a very thin line, but it keeps moving. And we have to keep moving with it.
So fast. I mean, I've been in technology forever, and I have yet to see a technology that has moved as fast as this has.
But don't you find that everything is like sort of exponentially moving? So we don't have time.
Exponentially. Before, it used to be relegated to a certain industry.
Right.
Now it's touching everything and everywhere. So it's the geek in me is kind of excited. At the same time, you're like trying to balance too. Like, what are my kids gonna study when they go to school? Let me see what they're gonna do. So it's all very balanced. Speaking of kids, you did the most beautiful post to your daughter. What must have been last week or so, 16th birthday.
Yes.
Mommyhood. What has that taught you, especially a 16-year-old?
Oh my God. Do you have children? Anybody in here have kids? Oh,
they're not claiming them.
You look like you're tired. He already is just like, yes, I do.
I see him, he's like this.
Leaned over. I know, I feel you. No, it's so fascinating because the early on in my career, before marriage, before kids, I really had the thought that any one of those changes in my life would disrupt what I was doing. And I am very ambitious. And very early on, I was like, you know what? I don't know that any of those things are for me because I'm just driving to the top of my career and, it's fine. I'll be that rich auntie. It's okay, And my daughter, for sure, has changed my perspective on so many things, mostly because of the personal journey that it took to get here. In that I had a lot of difficulty. I write about it in my book, The Urgent Life. And I think the biggest thing that has really changed for me, not just as a mother, but as an executive, as just a member of society, and as a mother to her, is that when she was 4, my husband passed away from cancer. And we were living in New York. I was working at PepsiCo. And I made the decision to move to California to take the job with Beats Music, which then very quickly became the job at Apple. And it took about 6 months to move her from New York to LA while I settled myself in the midst of very deep grief. And when she arrived, I remember that very first night, I couldn't sleep. Just being overwhelmed with grief and the magnitude of this 4-year-old who is now looking at me as her only parent and trying to figure out what that was going to be like, as well as a very, very large job. And I thought, I don't know how I'm going to do this. You know, like, I'm not sure how this is all gonna work. And there were two things that happened. One, I did the mommy fail, which is I woke her up out of sleep, okay? No mother should ever do that. But I woke her up out of sleep, and I think it was out of desperation. I just said, like, look, I don't actually know what I'm doing, and I'm gonna need your help. So you're gonna have to tell me when you need things. And, you know, her little bleary-eyed 4-year-old self was like, okay, and then she went back to sleep. And the funny thing is, you know, you would think that, like, this is like some sort of, like, you know, soft, sappy movie where the music comes in and she says something profound, you know, but no, all she said was, okay. And it changed everything for me because I moved from trying to manage her to then including her. And it changed from me trying to lessen my ambition to including her in my ambition.
I love that.
So it meant that I didn't stop needing to, you know, stay at the office late or having to travel for work or any number of those things. It was just that I would talk to her about it. And what has happened over time is that she understands in our relationship that when she needs me to be present at a place or look at her do a thing, that she tells me.
Exactly.
And she puts it down. You know, we have a shared family calendar.
There you go.
You know, where she understands that it's not, I won't be able to come to everything. But I also understands that when she says I need to be someplace,
that's important.
That's where I'm gonna be.
Yes.
And that trust and that understanding has allowed me to not just excel in my career because I feel free from the mommy guilt of not being at home. You know, I feel free from that because I know that if she needed me at a certain place or to do a certain thing, she would tell me, and I trust her enough.
You guys established that in your relationship.
Absolutely, and she trusts that if she tells me, I will do it.
Yes.
And that for me has given me a freedom that hasn't just applied to my motherhood with her, but in how I manage my teams. I'm not saying that my teams have been children, but you know what I'm saying.
I'm not saying
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying
wink, wink.
That you know, I think that sometimes we don't trust each other enough.
Or use our voice to say what we need.
Correct, yes, even in leadership.
Yes.
That we don't trust our teams enough to tell us the truth.
Yes.
Or they don't trust us
to
believe them when they need a break. Or they need time to do this other thing. Or that they will get the work done if only they had that. You know, that that line of communication really falls apart because of lack of trust. And not because somebody doesn't want to do it. And so it has enabled me to be more honest in my work and in my leadership with teams.
So it's something that you carry forward in all that you do.
Yes.
Because I love the empowering her to use her voice to say what she needs.
Yeah.
And that is so transferable to any team or any relationship.
Yes, exactly.
So that's amazing. Yeah. Oh God, we could be up. Okay, I don't want them to come kick me off the clock. They said they were going to come kick us off. I want to pivot for a moment because we have an audience full of marketers. We have marketers out here? Where are our marketing champions? Now, what's your most practical advice for making a brand feel personal, relevant to modern audiences, especially in a world of constant distraction?
Oh gosh. Well, look, here's the thing. Very early on in my career, I was always chastised for loving pop culture too much. You know, meaning that I was the one in meetings that would be talking about what happened on the BET Awards, you know, on Monday.
Right.
Versus like what the data was talking about.
Right.
Now, the truth is that, like, look, we do need data. We need to understand what's happening. We need the numbers.
Yes.
We need to understand what has happened in the past. We need to understand where we're going in the future, all of those things. But without understanding what is happening in the current moment, what is happening with culture right now, you will always miss. And so for me, the idea of creating campaigns or working on a brand without being intimately knowledgeable about what's happening in culture is a miss.
Right.
You're never going to be great, you know, unless you understand that. And that requires real curiosity. You know, in order to excel as a marketer, you have to love people. You have to love culture.
Say it again for the people in the back.
Well, it's true. It's like, you just have to be so, like, you know, you have to border nosiness. You know what I mean? In order to be a great marketer. Because, like, look, you got to be in the airport and ear hustle what they're talking about. You have to be on social media and understand what's trending, what's the conversation, what's happening today.
Right.
Because whatever they're talking about right now will affect the next 6 months.
Yes.
And so without understanding that, without being intimately involved and curious about present world culture, what people love, you're going to miss. And I don't know what kind of marketer you are then.
Well, and I think the key too is like being present, but also having an open mind. Don't come with preconceived notions.
Oh, well, yes, of course, you can't.
Right.
Because the truth of the matter is that what we are doing is reflecting back to the world the things that they're already talking about.
Right.
Now, I only caution about the preconceived ideas in that, you can't have made a decision about what is happening, right?
Right.
But I fully believe that you should insert yourself in it. So you're not as objective as like, oh, I sit over here apart from the conversation. You're in the conversation too. Absolutely. But you cannot then decide for the people what it is that you believe the thesis is.
Right.
So you have to take the thesis from what they're telling you, but I'm saying that like as a human, you're also involved, you're also thinking, you're also putting yourself in their shoes.
You also
to
have
better
an opportunity to have an impact and sort of help create that narrative.
Yeah, exactly.
Based off of that input that you're getting.
Yes.
So marketers be nosy. Is what I just
Yes,
heard.
that's the bottom line.
Ear hustle.
Yes, ear hustle. Marketers
I love it.
must ear hustle.
Now, we talked about some great stuff backstage, and I was like gonna try to keep it for myself, but I'm not gonna get cute. We talked about so many things. One of the things we talked about was your career, having gone from corporate baddie, right, all these things, to now a whole nother level. And I would love for you to share with them how you came to that space of seeing yourself being able to do things outside of what you thought you were solely cut out to do.
Okay, so this is a little bit of a winding story.
Yes.
So
we got time.
Okay, great. So very early in my career, like I said, I wanted to excel based on what I could see, other success that I'd seen. And I think we all want to do that.
Right.
You see somebody who's successful, you want to pattern yourself after that success so you can get there.
That's right.
But unfortunately, I didn't see a lot of CMOs who were, had their cleavage out, which I like to do. So there was no one to pattern myself after. And I had reached the point, actually, I remember it so clearly. I was in a yearly review. That year, I had successfully negotiated with the NFL for the Super Bowl halftime show. Nice. I put Beyonce on that stage.
Look at that.
The following year, thank you. The following year, I'd lined up Bruno Mars, and then Katy Perry, and then Lady Gaga. So the rocket ship was going.
Yes.
And I was in my review feeling very smug and very happy with myself.
As one would.
Yes, as one would. And my boss at the time said that not only did he not recognize my home runs, but that I was too passionate. He used other words. I'm interpreting it. I was too passionate, too loud, too opinionated. Yeah, exactly. Somebody felt that? And that I would have to find a way to humble myself.
So did he quote Kendrick Lamar to you?
Look, I'll pretend as if, I was like, walked out there with my shoulders high and all that. No, I cried. I cried all the way home. I cried for a week, thinking that like, well, I'm never gonna get to the top because I don't know how not to be this.
Right.
I don't know how not to be passionate in the meeting. I don't know how not to let my voice rise when I'm excited about something or in frustration. I don't know how not to get teary-eyed when I'm frustrated with something. I don't know how not to do that. And so I hung it up and I just said, well, you know what, it's fine. I'll just be in the middle. It's okay. And if I never get promoted, it's all right. I'll just keep doing the work that I do. But in that defeat, in that total release, came my entire power. Because, and I'm telling you, like it was stark. I have a colleague, Zach Harris, who I'm still friends with now, who knew me in that day.
During that time, yeah.
And he sat very close to me, and he said he remembers that very next day, when I walked into the office, I had my leather pants on, they had studs down the side, okay? I had a floral blouse on, and it was unbuttoned a little too low. And I sat down in the meeting and I just started talking. You know, I just said like whatever I wanted to say. And it was so fascinating because in that decision that I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna be in the middle, it's fine, came my total freedom. And I just said the things that came to my mind. I was as creative as I wanted to be. I was no longer sitting on my hands because that's what I'd been doing.
To assimilate to something that was
I've been trying to assimilate. And fast forward many years later, the Wall Street Journal wrote a story about me, and they said, you know, here's a marketer who has had 9 jobs in 6 industries, and how did she do it? And it was the first time I'd reflected back since that time 12 or 15 years prior when I'd given up. And the thing that came to me was this idea of my freedom, you know, not being held in by anybody's definition. For me, I am a pop culture marketer through and through. Like, you can say whatever you want, but that's what I am. I'm a storyteller.
Storyteller.
And that can translate to many industries.
Right.
And it can translate to many different spaces. And so when, at the time, I decided that I wanted to leave my corporate jobs and leave Netflix in particular, I decided that I wanted to write my book. You know, I mean, the ultimate test of storytelling, isn't it?
Right.
And then after my book was published and the promotion was done and I was sitting on my couch and thinking, what do I do now? You know, here comes another opportunity in front of the camera to storytell. And so I have not been afraid of my own talent in that very specific place. You know, sometimes we get afraid of saying we're good at one thing because it sounds limiting. It sounds like, you know, you must not be talented. But I'm telling you, I am the best at this one thing.
That's right.
And that's why I'm able to move through different industries. That's why I'm able to move from space to space. And it feels authentic because I am still the same. I'm the same storyteller that you will see in the boardroom at Pepsi and that you see on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Let them know.
Hello. But what I'm also hearing you say is, what I ultimately believe, we all come into this world with our gifts and talents.
Yes.
You found that talent.
Yeah.
And that talent is not relegated to just CMOing, which is still an amazing achievement on its own.
Yes, that's right.
But being able to apply that gift and talent to many spaces and places.
And not to self-edit.
Not to self-edit. That's what we talked about.
Because yes, that's what happens. We say, okay, well, all right, maybe I'm good at this one thing. I accept that. And so when somebody brings you another opportunity, you're like, oh, I can't do that because this is what I do. So bring me something that I do in this space. And then you self-edit. But what if the true talent that you have is not necessarily in a title or even in an industry, but it is in a more sacred space, you know, a gift that has been given to you that you can then utilize across time and space. Now, if you want to stay in the same industry, in the same type of job, then use your talent and do that, for sure.
That's right.
But it doesn't stop you from being able to roam freely, you know, with that talent firmly in place.
But it sounds like when you did relegate to, you know what, I'm just gonna be middle management, I'm just gonna be here.
Yeah.
Even you thought that was going to be your path, the universe was like, oh no, boo.
Right.
Oh no, we got bigger things for you. But when you released trying to become something or assimilating and lessening yourself in spaces and just showed up authentically yourself, I really believe the right opportunities come to you, right, without even working. But that brings me to the word authenticity. We talked about that a little bit backstage. Everybody uses that word so freely. Be authentic. But there's a prerequisite to that, and it's know thyself. How can you authentically be who you are if you don't know who you are? If you're constantly trying to emulate other people. Right? So tell me about your journey to authenticity.
Well, oh gosh, that's a very hard question because
that is my gift and talent. There you go.
When I was 12, my family immigrated to the United States from Ghana. We moved from Ghana to Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Wow.
Which in October. Is somebody from Colorado? Are you from the Springs?
Close.
Okay. Were we neighbors? No, okay. And it was a difficult transition for me because, you know, at 12, y'all remember what you were like at 12? right? Well, I was not as cute as I am now. And who wants to be different, when you're 12, right? You just want to kind of fit in. I did not fit in. I was very tall then and very black. And it just wasn't working in Colorado Springs. And the challenge was, of course, in trying to make friends. One of the ways that I realized that I loved pop culture so much was actually in that time, in knowing that, the way that I would connect with my classmates and people at church or, people in the community was to understand pop culture. I had to understand, look, the Denver Broncos, look, John Elway was king in that day, right? I had to know about John Elway. I had to understand music and fashion and politics and all of the things. And so it was not just a exercise of academia, it was an exercise of survival at the time. Now, once I made it into the popular girls group, and y'all know how hard that was, okay? I was accepted into the group, and I went to one of their houses, and everybody was there, and we had a great time, and ate pizza, and drank our Pepsis, and, danced to music and all that stuff. And then the most popular girl was like, Boz, we're gonna come to your house next week. And I was like, oh, hell no. But I ran home, and I told my mom, and I was like, okay, so they're gonna come here, and we're gonna need pizza and Pepsi, and I need a stereo system, and so I'm going down the list of the things. And she looked at me, and she was like, no, we're not gonna do that. And the look of shock and fear and, disappointment. Look, if I didn't know better, because I knew she would have grabbed me up, I would have fallen on the ground and thrown a tantrum, but I knew better. I knew better. She wouldn't let me do that.
You want to live to the next day.
Look, exactly. I want to survive. But, now I can look back at that time and recognize the lesson that she taught me and make it an academic one. But at the time, what she said was, when they come into your house, they will eat your food.
That's right.
And you never forget that. And what happened is that these little white children came to my house and ate our pepper soup, which is exactly what you think it is.
It is, yes.
Their poor little pink cheeks and the tears that were run down their faces. But interestingly enough, that most popular girl, Summer Stout at the time, became my best friend. We're still best friends to this day, 30 years later.
Wow.
And she came over a few months ago with her daughter. We have daughters about the same age. And the first thing she asked for was from my mom's pepper soup. Yeah, exactly. So, but for me, the idea of authenticity is rooted in that, which is that lesson very early on, which was drilled into me that when they come into your house, meaning when they are in your space, when you have created the space, they will do what you want.
Yes.
And not that you have to assimilate to what they want.
That's right.
And so I've used that throughout. I mean, it happened on one of the grandest stages when I led the Apple keynote for Apple Music.
Yes.
It was the first time that we were introducing Apple Music to the world, and I had that pressure on my shoulders to represent hundreds of engineers and marketers and product managers who, my goodness, the music industry, had put so much work into Apple Music, and I decided to bring myself into it because I was like, look, this stage is now my home. You're going to come into my space.
I love that.
And so I didn't go by the wisdom that I had been given by some of the engineers, which said, hey, this is the algorithm by which you must talk to the people because this is what's going to succeed. And I was like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to show the world how to enjoy music through my eyes. It's like Apple Music is a personal device. And so how am I going to show you how you can actually make it personal to you unless you see how it's personal to me?
Exactly.
And so on that stage, in front of hundreds of people and the millions who were watching, dialed in, I played the Sugar Hill Gang.
Yeah.
The first hip-hop song.
Yes,
and yes, I sang every lyric, even though they didn't know what I was talking about.
That's right.
It's fine.
That's right.
I tried to get them to rap along. They did not do it. I had the lyrics on the stage and everything, and they still didn't do it.
They're like, I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble doing this.
Exactly.
Or...
No, it was a disaster, but it's okay. It won. And then I played a song that was one of my very close friends. Her daughter had become a new artist. And so, yes, I'm that auntie. I was like, let me play her song, give her a little shine.
I love
And then I played the last song, which was a song from Ghana. called Yewokrum, which means we are here. And it's now, of course, the genre is called Afro beats, but at the time it was still mixed into world music, and you couldn't find African music on its own. And I came off the stage, and it was, the world was on fire. You know, it was like we were trending everywhere, and Apple Music stock was rising, and it was a brilliant moment. But the idea that I would put myself, my authentic self, on that stage and let the world see was a move that I don't know that many people would have thought would have been successful. And by the way, I wasn't sure that'd be successful either. However, I do think it's important for us all to recognize the fact that the only way that we connect with other human beings is by showing ourselves as human.
Yes.
And so if you do that well, then everything that you say will at least land.
Yes. And it's that, like I always tell people, it's that human connection that transcends race, gender, sexual orientation.
Yes.
And it's harder to get to at times, right?
Yeah.
Because we do get blocked by all these other things.
Yeah.
But it's connecting at that human level, and that's the thing that will make the biggest impact.
Yes.
And connection.
Yes. And look, there's lots of fear in it, right?
So
because
much.
The thing is that you could show up as yourself, you could show up authentically, and people don't like you.
Right.
Isn't that the worst thing? You're like, oh my God, they hate me.
Right.
And because like, how can you change yourself? You know, you are who you are. But I do believe that we actually, human beings, are more graceful than that.
Yes.
You know, sometimes we look at the world today and we think it's all, you know, going to hell in a handbasket, but I believe in us. I really, really do.
I do.
And I believe because I've had the personal experience of being the outsider in a space and knowing that there are more of us who care about our differences and how that contributes to society than those of us who believe that it is a difference to it.
I completely agree with that. I actually believe, I'm the same boat with you. I believe there's more good in this world than there is.
Absolutely.
I have to.
Yes,
okay,
and there is, it's true.
I have to do my job now because they're looking at me like, okay. I mean, I could go on forever with this, but I just love this so much because I think so many people, particularly women or women of color, we struggle on how do we show up in these spaces and own ourselves. And I always say it starts with owning who you are. And then after you get to a certain age too, you just like, look at here, look at here.
You're gonna get what you're gonna get.
You're gonna get what you're gonna get and not throw a fit. That's what you're gonna get. But I think even for the younger ones coming up, and there is this space of authenticity, there is this space of knowing who you are, but I always say do the pre-work to understanding who you are.
Yeah.
Because and you grow and give yourself that grace too, to grow and always go beyond what you sell. To yourself, to your point.
Yeah.
Otherwise say, oh, I only do this.
Yes.
Don't limit yourself, stop editing yourself too.
Yes.
Okay, you recently made headlines with iconic appearances in pop culture, like The Real Housewives, and, should we let everybody know, I'm sure people know, are launching a brand competition show with Jimmy Fallon. Tell us a little bit about this venture and how you got there.
I know, right? Gosh. I know, can you even believe it? I'm like, honestly,
but
like,
that's what happens when you release and you say, I'm open to opportunity.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. Well, the funny thing is that this moment with Jimmy, it really does feel like just a culmination of a lot of parts of my life that have come together in like one fell swoop. I don't even know where to start, like where it began, but maybe I'll start with him, which is that, you know, as an entertainer and a very successful one, he is also a storyteller.
Yes.
You know, he does it on The Tonight Show every single evening, but also in all of his other ventures. And he had concepted this idea of a marketing competition show where brands could come in and give a brief to creatives who would then pitch them their ideas. And, you know, you have one winner and one loser, and then you go until there's one grand winner, right? We all know the formula,
right?
But done in a marketing capacity. And he had been trying to cast the CMO, you know, the person who would legitimize the show, who understood marketing, and couldn't do it because couldn't find the right combination of someone with the chops as well as a personality for TV, until I made my appearance on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And so, by the way, it was like one of those moments where he and I were meeting to talk about the show, and he was pitching me the idea, and I was like, well, look at God, you know?
Look at God.
Because for all the people who were like, why would you ruin your reputation by going on that damn show? I was like, look, look what happened.
It's just...
But it was amazing because the idea that you know, I'm a marketer. I'm a marketer in so many different industries and capacities. I have lots of friends who are now in the CMO ranks whose brands would be brilliant on the show. And to be able to talk to people who, by the way, come from all walks of life. The contestants were from, you know, real estate agents to a swim instructor. We did have a marketing professor in the group as well. And it also just reminded me of the number of times where people would tag me in their nonsensical ideas for the brands I'd worked on, you know? I can't tell you the number of people who were like, ooh, I have a new idea for a drink when I was at Pepsi. Or like, you know, oh, you know what, we should have a product that does that when I was at Apple. Or, girl, there was all kind of ideas.
I can't even imagine.
I said,
put a whole book together.
Look, a whole book. But so it was an amazing experience to create a show together where we could see those ideas and they could come to life, you know, and create moments where we had these amazing big brands. A lot of the executives I already knew from my past life, and be able to give the opportunity for people to pitch. And I think it's gonna be wildly entertaining. There's some really bad ideas, Lord help us. But there were some excellent ones, some really, really beautiful ideas that came to life too.
I love how you're using your platform though also to be able to bring up other people in the marketing realm and bringing in folks that give them a moment of shine.
I'm telling you, so brilliant, so brilliant. It was just great to see, you know, the kind of ideas that come to life. And what I'm most excited about is for people to watch it and also come up with their own ideas.
Yes.
You know, the people who are gonna say like, oh my God, I have an idea for that company.
You're like, just don't tag me on it.
Exactly, I'm like, yeah, don't tag me. Don't tell me, you know? But it's, I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. And Jimmy is a true genius and a super talent.
Yes.
And so it was really a wonderful pleasure to create with him.
When should we expect this?
Oh, in the fall.
In the
September.
Fall. Okay,
Yes.
in September.
Yes.
Yes.
On NBC.
NBC. Now, before we go, there's always one question I always like to wrap with.
Yeah.
And it is, in this moment, what are you grateful for?
Oh, gosh. You know, I'm really grateful to be living in the fullness of myself. You know, to have gone through everything that I've been through in my life, both the grief and the loss, the really, really big highs and the super terrible bad lows, you know, and to be so joyful in my life. You know, I learned a really big lesson when my husband passed away about urgency, and it is why I wrote my book, The Urgent Life. You know, I think sometimes people think urgency is about speed.
Right.
You know, get it done fast, do it right now. But that's not really what urgency is. Like, you've heard the Latin phrase carpe diem, right? And we all know what that means, like seize the day. But as a Latin student, I will tell you that it actually does not translate to seize the day. The translation is more of a plucking of the day, an intentional taking. So seize make it sound like you have to go and grab everything and do it like with anger and aggression. You know, that's not carpe diem. Carpe diem is a more intentional taking of the experiences, of the things that you want to do. And so my idea of urgency matches that, where it's like I'm urgent in my life about the things that I want to do.
Intention.
The life that I want to live. And I refuse to let anyone or anything get in the way of that, because this is my life that I'm living. And so the expectations that others have put on me, or the boxes that others have tried to put on me, I have completely discarded. But it was because of the experience of losing my husband at almost 44 years old, when there was so much more life to live. You know, as I stood in the receiving line of his funeral, you know, person after person would say to me, he died too young. Yeah, I'm so sorry, he died too young. And I reflected on that a lot. And it caused a lot of fear in me for a long time.
Right.
Because who wants to die young?
Right.
None of us do. But the challenge is that we don't know when we're gonna go. And for me, it's no longer a morbid thought, you know, because I am living my life in full urgency. Like it's a carpe diem life that I live, one in which I'm plucking the experiences that I want. And I don't let anyone stop me from doing that. So regardless of when I go, people are gonna be like, did you see the life that she lived?
That's right.
That's what I want people to say about me when it's my time.
Look at that. Ladies and gentlemen, I am seizing the day.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you all, thank you, thank you.